This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome everyone to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. Did you guys call in? Did you use your PTO? Did you fake the cough? It's today. The NCAA Tournament kicks off. Everyone knows what to do. Everyone knows the rules. You start coughing on Tuesday. Hopefully you set the stage so that your boss can say, oh, I don't need you around. And you enjoy the 2 days of March Madness. Now it's crazy. Look, I think this is the year. I think this might be my first year not even filling out a bracket because I got no clue what's going on. Everybody is, kind of all bunched up. Any of, I think, 6 teams could win it all. MSU, Michigan, we're going to break it all down later in the podcast, talking about the Wings and their collapse and the Pistons and the Lions and the stuff that they got going on. But cuz, welcome to DocNJock. It's March Madness. It's a fun time, but it's crazy, right? Especially coming on the heels of Michigan kind of finding their rhythm and hulking up in the Big Ten tournament. Michigan State ends up being the regular season champion, and Michigan ends up now in Dusty May's first season, kudos to him, ends up with a Big Ten tournament win and a game against Wisconsin that was sloppy, messy, but in the end, you still get a banner, and it's the fun time of year. And I think that there's a lot to talk about with the NCAA tournament. What's your excitement level? It's kind of, to me, I'm excited to see the competition, but like I said, we just got no clue what the hell is going to happen this year.
Yeah, it seems like it's a really wide open field, right? It seems like anybody can win it, and really and truly, anybody can always win this. It's a really weird event where you have 68 teams all vying for spots, and then you've got a committee that kind of puts you in different slots, and I would be lying to you if I told you I didn't believe that it was all done on the up and up and they didn't do things to make great matches and to have some of those first round TKOs that we get to see. But all that being said, this is going to be fun. It's fantastic. Every year it's a good time. Like I said, it does feel like it's a very wide open field. It feels like anybody can get anybody. I mean, Auburn is your number 1 overall seed. Auburn is a team that regularly under Bruce Pearl seems to drop the ball in that first round. Now, Auburn, I've watched some of the SEC games. I've watched Auburn play. I think they're a very good team. I think Florida's a very good team. I think Tennessee's a very good team. I watched a couple of Alabama games this year. I think they're a very good team. Obviously, we've watched MSU and Michigan. MSU, look, if going into the season, you told me that they were going to be the Big Ten champ, I'd have told you were smoking crack. They seem to figure things out as they went along, and they are a very strong team. This is a team that has Elite 8 written all over it. This is a team that could make it to the Final Four and could be a headache on Championship Monday. Michigan's a team where I think winning the Big Ten tournament was huge, right? This is the first year underneath Dusty May. He's come in. He's really cleaned up a mess that Juwan Howard left. Really helped fix a lot of things. Now, all that being said, this team obviously has its faults and obviously has its flaws, but this was a team that really and truly at the worst possible point of the regular season, they started to scuffle along, and he was able to really deflect a lot of noise. He was able to really just get these guys to focus in and look, it's just about basketball. It's just about winning this game, and then it's just about winning the game after this, and so on and so forth. And he really got them into that tournament mindset, and you've seen it. They were able to win the Big Ten tournament, and we're going to have a conversation about where both Michigan and Michigan State are seated, but this is an exciting time of year. We love March Madness. We've got 2 teams that have done very, very well from this area in it, and like I said, I feel like this tournament is completely up for grabs. And it kind of brings me to this. MSU gets a 2 seed. Now, they are in Alabama's division, right? Or they're in Auburn's division. Auburn, number 1 overall seed. So MSU's the number 2. They won't really have to meet them if they do meet up. until they get to the Elite Eight. Michigan also in that same division, so we might be able to see Michigan and MSU match up. Michigan State has pretty much annihilated Michigan all season long when they have matched up. But these two teams are in the same division, and there is the possibility that they could match up. Do you want to see these guys match up? Do you want to see these two teams come face-to-face in this tournament? And do you want to see them go blow for blow before we get into anything else where we're discussing where they're ranked, what their seed is, and kind of how we got there?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because Michigan fans are claiming now that the Big Ten tournament's more important than the regular season, even though 10 years ago they said the exact opposite. When Michigan State,
whatever fits the narrative, man, you know the deal.
It's so wild because you literally can look up tweets from the same people that are espousing that the Big Ten tournament now is much more important. That 10 years ago they said, "Oh, the regular season is more important." So it's very funny, and I knew that right away. I said, "Oh, Michigan's just saying that." It's a good accomplishment. Winning a tournament in any capacity that you're in, might as well win it. But for the Spartans, it's actually good because you have an opportunity to get some more rest. So it's irrelevant to Michigan State and their future. They still got the good seed. But yeah, it would be great. I think it's going to be far-fetched. My mind doesn't even allow myself to think that Michigan State can advance that far, and we'll talk about why. Michigan State's a good team, and they're going to have to rely on their defense, but they got holes, and it stinks because you're going to need the Batman. You're going to need a Robin to Jace Richardson's Batman. That's just the way it's going to be. So you look at the seeding. I thought that for Michigan State it was fair. For Michigan, maybe not given enough credit for the Big Ten tournament win, but it's not news. Everybody knows that the tournament is kind of put together basically that weekend. It's put together before the tournament ends, and you can slot a couple different things here and there, but Michigan got no credit for winning that tournament, and they actually were seated lower than Wisconsin. That might have been switched. That was crazy.
Right there. That is my big issue with the whole thing. I think Michigan State, whether they won the Big Ten or not, I think they were going to be a 2 seed. I think if they won the Big Ten tournament, they might have been in a more favorable division. They might have got a little bit of home court advantage, if you want to say, by being in a Midwest region. But I think for Michigan, if you're a Michigan fan, I think you have a bit of a complaint here. I think the way the committee did this, it shows that all of this is pre-orchestrated. All of this is basically done before the final buzzer goes. And that's really unfortunate. And really and truly, it could have been just as simple as flipping Michigan and Wisconsin. Michigan beat Wisconsin both times they've seen them this year. Michigan did lose to did split the games with Maryland, and both Wisconsin and Maryland are ranked higher than Michigan. And look, I think going into this first round matchup, Michigan's got a very tough challenge in front of them. Now, if they're a good team and if Dusty May is worth his contract extension, they'll figure out a way to get a win. But I think if you are a Michigan fan, you have every right to be upset with where you're placed. And really and truly, it comes down, for me, to where Wisconsin went. That's what really upset me, right? When everything was said and done, I was like, okay, where's Michigan? I didn't get to actually see the selection committee. I was doing something with my daughter. So when we finally got everything situated with her, I was like, okay, where did Michigan get selected? Where did they get placed? I was like, okay, 5. I was like, a little bit lower than I thought. I thought maybe they had a shot at being a solid 4 seed, maybe a 3 seed, right? When it all gets said and done, I'm like, where's Wisconsin at? Like that's going to be a little bit telling for me. And Wisconsin is a 3 seed, and they're over there in the East in Duke's division, and they're taking on Montana. And I'm just like, okay, right there, you just kind of start scratching your head. You're like, how the hell? And I'm like, I feel like Michigan beat Wisconsin every time they've played them this year. So you go back, you look, and you're like, yeah, okay, they did. And then you're like, all right, well, where's Maryland ranked? You know, because Maryland's got a very good team this year. And going through that rough patch that Michigan went through, Maryland got them. Maryland was also a team that was a bit of a hard out for Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, but Michigan did get them there. And you look and you see, okay, well, Maryland's a 4 seed, and they're playing Grand Canyon in the West in Florida's division. You're just like, what the hell? How the hell does Michigan get ranked beneath both of these two schools and beat them in the Big Ten tournament? Michigan had a pretty solid overall record. Like they all are pretty comparable as far as their overall record goes. I know in the Big Ten tournament, Maryland had I think it was one more win than Michigan did, so they were the 2 seed. Michigan was the 3 seed. Wisconsin, I believe, was the 5 seed. So just overall in the Big Ten, Michigan was a better team than Wisconsin, and Maryland was 1 game better than Michigan. How does this happen? I was frustrated. I was upset. It annoyed me to see both Wisconsin and Maryland, in my estimation, get a much more favorable draw than Michigan, and not just that, be ranked higher with their seed and that favorable draw. And to me, that was what was most frustrating. I can't wrap my head around the justification. And again, like you said, all of these things are said and done before the final buzzer goes. But for me, you could just as easily of flip-flop Michigan and Wisconsin, and it all would have made sense. You would have really have had to explain anything. You'd have been like, all right, that all makes sense. But like I said, Michigan has a pretty tough out here. Michigan has some issues that lie in front of them. I want to get your take, and then I'll give mine on why both of these teams could be out after the first game, both Michigan and Michigan State. Because like I said, Michigan has a tough draw. I think Michigan State has come along as a team, and they've really figured some stuff out. But Michigan has a really unfavorable matchup. So why do you think Michigan or Michigan State will struggle in this first game?
Yeah, it's first and foremost, those 10 o'clock tips are horrible. Horrible for me, horrible for everybody. Yeah, look, I don't think Michigan State or Michigan are going to struggle. Look, what concerns me is as the team progresses. Look, both can get hot, both can shoot the 3 at times, but not consistently to the level that you need against better opponents. So you go up against Auburn, you go up against Houston, you go up against some of these guys with more athletic talent, then you're going to have to keep up offensively. And for State, let's start with State. They got Jace Richardson, they got Atkins, they got Holloman. They got decent players, but they're all like B-plus talent, in my opinion. Jace is a all-pro, all-world NBA prospect that comes from lineage and will have a prosperous career. But he can't single-handedly carry you. And typically in the tournament, teams that get hot from 3 typically have success. You can make runs. And for Michigan State, it's clear. You got to rely on your defense. You got to force those turnovers. You got to clamp down, get those rebounds. That'll get you by the first weekend, no doubt. It's when you get a little bit further in that tournament is when you got to kind of start to get more out of the Cohens and the other guys as well, your wings and bigs and other guys as well. Who's going to be the Batman? Who's going to be the Robin? Batman is clearly Jace Richardson, but there could be somebody else that steps up. Who's going to be the Robin? Who's going to be the co-leader when things get tough? Because Michigan State is prototypical. When they struggle, they turn the ball over too much. They stagnate for 3 minutes offensively. The basket just for some reason, some nights for Michigan State, the hoop is 20 feet wide, and some nights it's like 2 inches wide, and nothing they throw at it gets into the rim. It's crazy. It's I give Michigan State probably a chance to get to the Sweet 16, and then it's all up in the air to me. They can win 2 games that first weekend, but to me, it's Auburn's region to win. I would love it if Michigan State fought for the region. That would be crazy. They can face each other if you look at the bracket in the Elite Eight, and it would be for the South region. It would be sick. It was fun for the reveal that it kind of came out quickly. For Michigan, cause I think they're getting hot at the right time, and to me, Donaldson kind of has been the force that's kind of been the emotional spark for that team. And when you have Donaldson and Golden playing at that level, you can win some games. And I think that the disrespect card can be played. And that team, for some reason, flipped the switch. And good for them at the right time. And that's why they call it March Madness. But I think Michigan's going to go as far as Golden and Donaldson take them.
Yeah, look, I agree with you there. Let me double back to Michigan State. I think the big issue that I see with Michigan State in this tournament, it's the 3-point shooting. I think Michigan State defensively plays well. I think they have the ability to move the ball. Like I said, they have the makings of a classic Tom Izzo team, and we all know Tom Izzo is tough, especially if they can win that first game of the weekend. It's the three-point shooting. It seems to have come alive towards the back end of the season, but still, this team is ranked 330th overall. So, like, I think there's something like 42 colleges. So, like, they're in the bottom, 2% of all of college basketball when it comes to three-point shooting. So if their three-point shots go cold, they're going to have a really hard time up against better competition. Now, I think they can beat Bryant. I don't think Bryant's going to necessarily be a challenge for them. I do think they get by Bryant. But when they start to advance a little bit deeper into the tournament, if the three-point shot isn't there and they're having difficulties putting the ball in the basket, like you said, it seems like sometimes the hoop can be as big as the ocean and they're throwing softballs into it. And then other times it feels like you've got a massive beach ball and you're trying to fit the ball into a tiny solo cup. And it's like you just can't get the ball into the hole. So if things turn around and that happens, Michigan State could find themselves on the out. And that is my one big concern with them. Now with Michigan, specifically in this first matchup, they are playing a team that is incredibly long, right? Most of the guys who are going to be on the floor range anywhere from 6'2 to 6'7. Now, I know Michigan has a couple of 7-footers that they like to roll out there, but everybody who's going to be on the floor is between 6'2 and 6'7. That makes things a little bit difficult on some of the guys who are a little bit smaller on your team. Also, UC San Diego likes to turn the ball over, right? They like to force turnovers. They play very good defense. What does Michigan do a lot of? What is the one thing that has been their Achilles heel all season? They love to turn the ball over. Michigan is not very breathed at taking care of the rock. They do like to spill it, and they do like to give it to the other team. Leads to odd man rushes down the other way, fast breaks, and easy points for other teams. So I think for Michigan, it's going to be contending with the length of UC San Diego, and then it's going to be protecting the ball. If they can protect the ball and they find a way to overcome that length, they've got a shot, obviously, to get out of this first round, and then we'll be looking towards either Texas A&M or Yale. I think for Michigan, I think a realistic expectation, right? You should be excited with where the season has gone thus far. I think realistically, though, if this team can somehow find its way to the Sweet 16, you are having a miraculous season. You are having a fantastic year. I'm looking for them to get out of the first week, and then we'll kind of go from there. If you can get past Texas, A&M, or Yale, cool. You'll get into the round of 32, and it'll kind of be whatever it's going to be. You might have to face Auburn at that point. You might have to face Louisville or Creighton. We'll see what takes place, but really, it's survive against UC San Diego, and then let's see what happens the next turnaround when you face either Texas A&M or Yale. For MSU, I think your expectation should be the Elite Eight. I think if you can get to the Elite Eight, this has been a very good season for Tom Izzo. It's been a very good season for MSU. If you can make it to the Final Four, obviously ecstatic, fantastic year, right? But I think the Elite Eight is the realistic expectation for this team, especially when you look at both of these teams, right? Going into the year, Michigan and MSU, I think they were ranked 5th and 4th, respectively. Like they weren't looked upon to be any significant powerhouse in the Big Ten. I feel like the Big Ten is a little bit of an overrated conference, but both of these teams have played incredibly well in their conference and have taken care of the business at hand when it's come down to it. So I think there are options, and there are the ability for these teams to make a run. What would you say is a realistic expectation for both Michigan and MSU to make it to the Final Four? You know, we kind of talked about some of the pitfalls that this team could have, but I've already said Michigan State, I feel like, has a better chance of making it to the Final Four than Michigan does, and we both have set our expectations pretty low. But scale of 1 to 100, what do you think the the realistic shot is for both MSU and Michigan to have that Final Four appearance?
I think it's more realistic for State. They could get on a run, but Michigan can get hot, can shoot hot, and can do some things. I'm curious to see if the Detroit, if Michigan State and Tom Izzo can really, in the end, shoot consistently enough and play their basketball against better opponents. That loss to Wisconsin is kind of bad in my mind. It sticks. Mm-hmm. It sticks to you because you. I think even on a bad day, you're supposed to beat Wisconsin. You know what I mean? It's. I wasn't impressed with that performance, but it's back-to-back nights, so it's always different. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. I just don't think that that the Spartans have enough offensive weapons to, in big games, sustain what they need to in big moments. Now, they can get to the Final Four, but it leads to a lot of players having to be successful, shoot the ball well. And I think probably your leader, Akins, has to do some things. I think that he's got to step it up and be that presence that maybe can have some clutch shots. You count on some older guys to do that, but like I said, I just feel like it's maybe you win the game, in the Sweet 16, you get to the dream scenarios, you get to the matchup against Auburn, and you swing. And in the end, I think Michigan State will face Auburn and then lose. It's just kind of how a Spartan fan always kind of views it. But, and I guess the way in which these tournaments go, Jace Richardson's got to become superstar NBA draft pick like right now. Mm-hmm. Like take over the tournament and give me the rock, average 20 points, and the Batman becomes the ultimate hero for Michigan State, and he can carry you. That would be great. But it's tough over the course of several games. But it's fun to see, right? What do you think about Michigan? I think that they can get hot shooting wise in a hurry, and I think that's where their hopes lie. Is that a bunch of guys get hot and they start making their shots?
Yeah, I think for Michigan, it's going to be relying on making the three-pointer, and when you get to the line, you're going to have to bury your free throws. Play good defense and just take advantage of your shot-making opportunities is what it comes down to. If you can get hot and you can stay hot, you have a chance to survive and move forward here. I think with Michigan State, I would say it's probably a 50-50 shot for them to make it to a Final Four. Like I said, my expectation is an Elite Eight. I think once you get there, depending on who you're facing, if it is Auburn, if Michigan gets lucky enough to make it to an Elite Eight, or if it's somebody else who comes out of the top half of that bracket, I think Michigan State has about a 50-50 shot to make it to a Final Four. For Michigan, I'm going to put it at about 33%. Again, you gotta take advantage of those shot making opportunities, like I just said. Their free throw shooting is not good. It's just about 70%, maybe a little bit more. 3-point shooting, even though they're a little bit better than Michigan State, it's still not great when you compare it to other high-powered teams. So they depend a lot on a lot of ball movement. They put a lot on their 7-footers, and it's a lot of this trying to work a little bit of an inside-out game. But here's the thing: when you're doing the inside-out game, and you're moving the ball around, you tend to turn it over a lot more. And that's been the one thing that has tripped this team up regularly throughout the season. So take care of your shots, take advantage of those shot-making opportunities, and don't turn the ball over. They have a real shot to make it to the Final Four, but like I said, I'm going to put it at about 33% for Michigan, and I'm going to put it at about 50% for Michigan State. I'm excited to see where both of these teams go and how they get there. This is part of the fun, right? It is watching the heartbreaking and exhilarating final seconds of these games. It's fun watching these lower seeds bubble up and take out these blue chip powerhouses. And this is what it's all about, man. March Madness is a lot of fun. This is one of the most exciting tournaments that we have. And really and truly, I think to the detriment of college basketball, the NCAA tournament is just so damn good and so damn entertaining. Like you said, you've got people setting up to call into work on Tuesday so they can have Thursday off and they can have Friday off. And I think because it's such a powerful thing and it's such a fun ride for the next couple of weeks, it really does kind of hamper the expectation and the interest in the college basketball season. But all that being said, we're here now. Good luck to both Michigan. Good luck to Michigan State. I think both teams have really good chances to make it out of this first weekend, and I think both teams have chances to make Final Four appearances. I think Michigan State's is obviously much, much better.
Yeah, and I think that for your bracket, if you just want to go chalk, Auburn, Alabama, or Houston, probably the odds-on favorites. Handle business and see what happens as it progresses, but it should be fun. I'm hoping the games are exciting. That's most important. CBS has it. If you just go to the CBS Sports app, it'll tell you exactly, and on X, it'll tell you exactly when every game is and what channel it's on, so you don't have to get confused. I know it's your annual visit to find True and TBS and all those things, but the hub is there. You can find it. And maybe that, I have it liked, so maybe that first day I'll retweet it and let everybody know. Thursday, today, as you listen to this, we'll try to get this podcast out a little earlier so that you can enjoy March Madness. But it's all day, noon to midnight. And in Michigan, it could be snowing where you're watching this. So it's going to be fun. Hopefully all of you have service and the snow or the wild weather, the bipolar weather swings don't affect everybody too much. But turning our attention real fast, isn't it just disappointing because that the Wings just... it's just one of those deals where it kind of just Mrazek has been okay, but it's been about 500 that they lost to Washington, and it just feels like with 14 games left, it's to me, I'm detached. I just don't feel like I think that the sad Larkin pressers that they keep airing on Twitter is sad, and it's like every time he looks shell shocked, it's just like every time it feels like he lost a $250,000 bet when he talks after a loss. It's sad. It's a bummer. And then on the other side, you got the Pistons who are battling, scratching, and clawing, and their coach is screaming at the lack of respect. You got Shaq saying, I would never watch the Pistons. They're boring, and just saying, yeah, Chauncey's the man, and he's the leader of the operation. Yet, you're getting paid to kind of understand at least at the very basic level who the coaches are. You don't got to know the details of what JB Bickerstaff is doing, but you got to know that Chauncey's out there in Portland, which is the ultimate disrespect and a slap in the face. But he got his. He was embarrassed publicly by his own coworkers by being stupid and talking on the air like that. But I like it. I like the Pistons, us against the world mentality. I do think it'll bode well for them. They'll be in the playoffs. And for those that picked the Pistons over the Wings, you're right. And for those that invested in, we asked, should you invest in the Wings? And it might have been premature to say, yeah, it's just one of those deals where the talent's not there. It's not good enough. And it's Mrazek can only do so much if you're not putting the puck in the net. If you look at it, the state of the Pistons, the stock is high and the Wings is low, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, look, as far as the Wings go, I told you last week.
Yeah.
I'm out.
You're out.
I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention. It's one of those things I just don't understand the direction of this team. I'm frustrated with what's going on with them. They've been able to, since our last podcast, they were able to win a game or two, and they lost to the Capitals the other night. It just, to me, it feels like it's a team that's going nowhere, right? If playoffs are somewhere, this is a team that is going nowhere. I don't see them making the playoffs at all, and because of that, I've pulled back my expectations. I've pulled back my interest. I've got other things going on, right? We've got the Final Four taking place. We've got the Pistons that have been a lot of fun to watch. Tigers and opening day is around the corner. I'm trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do with third base, seeing how they've not gone out and really addressed that position in free agency, and any of the guys in the pipeline. You don't want to block them, but they're not ready to make it up here. So there are other things that are percolating that have my interest. Now, as far as the Pistons go, I find what Shaq said last week to be completely and utterly disrespectful, especially when you are a national analyst on one of the biggest shows when it comes to the NBA. I think it was a little bit uncalled for, and if you don't know, just don't talk about them. You know what I'm saying? Just or if you do have to talk about them, just quickly brush up on some facts. You can go look at a box score. You can go read something very fast, really quickly. You've got producers who can help you put stuff together quickly. Do that. Don't make an ass out of yourself on television. But I think what happened the other night against OKC with all of the technicals that were flying all around, and JD Bickerstaff coming out and basically setting the NBA on fire and roasting the referees and the officials. I thought that was fantastic. This is a guy who is saying, look, we are doing everything in our power to be a competitive product, and the last thing we need is for the officials to step in and cost us games. And that's what happened to that game. They were cost games by the officials. So I absolutely loved it. I applaud it. I think what JD Bickerstaff has done with this team, and I think the growth of Cade Cunningham has been absolutely fantastic. I do like the trajectory that we're seeing from the Detroit Pistons, and I think it makes things interesting. When we get to the offseason, they're going to have some decisions to make. They're going to have to do a couple of things. I think this team does have to go out and find that superstar, find that guy that they can pair with Cade. I don't think Jaden Ivey is going to have a role on this team. I think he is going to be your trade chip. As much as I would love for him to work out here, you see how Cade has been able to flourish with him being injured. You see how he's been able to take over this team and dominate with the ball. I think that's what he needs. He needs somebody to play off of him. He needs somebody who is maybe a bigger star than him that he can feed, and they'll help elevate each other. You can bring Dern along for that ride as well. I really like him, obviously. I feel like this team has its nucleus, but there's still one guy short, and I think they're going to have to make that adjustment in the offseason. But I think this team is going to be a lot of fun as we make our way down the back stretch of the season and as we get into the playoffs. I think this is going to be a very dangerous team when they get into the playoffs, and I think they will make some noise. I'm excited for the Pistons, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that the turnaround now gives people hope that the moves that can be made in the offseason to supplement Cade and Ivy and Isaiah Stewart and the shooters that you got, really Malik Beasley has turned around his career again, a resurgence. And it's good to see Tobias Harris really being the veteran that can help. Look, simple as that. Shooters shoot, and the gritty nature of learning how to win and play defensive basketball has been great. And it's a gritty bunch. Yeah, the loss to the Warriors was tough. The disrespect against OKC was tough. But you see that they're able to bounce back. And the good thing is that they're whooping on bad teams. That's most important. Whoop on the teams that you're better than, and then compete as much as you can against the teams that are in your class, you know, the Knicks and the Bulls and the teams in the Eastern Conference. Let's see how you compete in the postseason with the Pacers and stuff like that as you get closer and closer. Now here with our final 15 minutes or so, did you see on Wednesday that the Lions are, interestingly, an organization that looks at how the game is played and is like, you know, we got two corners that like to use their hands. And it's probably going to be a situation in which the officials are going to throw a shit ton of flags against them. Let's make it a college rule where it's not an automatic first down. Let's just make it a situation in which a flag against a defensive back does not give you spot and automatic first down. I think it's great. 5-yard penalty, 10-yard penalty, not automatic first down. I think that's great. The other rule about the roster is good in regards to if a team has a lot of players on IR, then some of the players in regards to their spot don't count against the active roster. I think that's great. That one has a chance. The one that has no chance, which is great though, and it's intriguing, is if a wild card team has a better record than a division winner, then they get the home game, which will never pass in a million years because that would require an owner to give up a home game.
I absolutely love that one, though.
You love it?
One of my favorite. Yeah, that was one of my favorite rules.
It's great.
It will never happen.
Those two. I think the IR rule could potentially help teams because you build the ability to help teams deal with injuries that just are part of the game. So that one has the legit chance. The other two are funny, just based on the fact that they proposed it, based on their own benefit and how that could happen. Because they looked at it and they said, "Oh my goodness." We could have been a team tied at least with the Vikings and not had a home game. So they looked at it and they were forward thinking and they were like, well, let's let a wild card team have a home game if the record's better. So they would have wanted an opportunity potentially looking at their situation to say, hey, you know, sometimes a 13, 14 win team is not good enough based on the division that you're in. So it's a good topic to discuss, these rule changes. But yeah, you're right. They don't have a chance in my mind to be able to to be able to pass. But at this point in time, I think we're going to talk about what's just been permeating in Detroit, percolating. The only thing people care about, not the draft, not the guys that they're bringing back. I mean, I don't blame you guys. You don't care about Craig Reynolds. You don't care about
they go out and bring back more. Like this is honestly, it is bringing the band back together all day, every day. It's like every day I check the news cycle, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They brought Shane Zylstra back.
Mitchell Agude.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Mitchell Agude and Pat O'Connor. I'm like, dude, we're trying to run a business here. I'm trying to do a podcast. How are we going to sell? I thought about today. I'm like, okay, I'm setting up here, trying to figure out how to turn on these lights and microphones and headphones. And how do you sell Pat O'Connor?
Right.
Mitchell Agude.
Like, they're good stories, but these are guys that you bring in when, like, your depth has just been annihilated. and then these are guys who are sitting at home on their couch waiting for a phone call.
All right.
And you're bringing these dudes back and lacing them up with 1-year contracts for like $3 or $4 million. That's money you could be using to go get a guy like, I don't know, Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, so what's funny is that the Lions released 2 videos, the mini movie of the 2024 season and the behind the scenes with the coaches, and all the comments were, is this shit trying to distract us from the fact you don't have an edge rusher? Why'd you cut Za'Darius Smith? Where's the edge rusher? I don't care about this. You trying to distract me? I was like, wow, you guys. And it's true. The numbers indicate that you guys like talking about the edge. It's fair coming off of the heels of a Super Bowl where the Eagles dominated the Chiefs with 4 guys. It's a front 4 that dominated Patrick Mahomes and the offensive line. So I love the passion. I love what they're saying. And it's true that you as a fan base deserve the best players. And you don't believe, and it's smart. I mean, how are you going to sit there as a legitimate person and be like, I really believe that the combination of Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Pascal are going to dominate the NFL? Bro, you're talking about the Rams are getting Devontae Adams, trying to stuff it down your throat with 2 receivers that are going to be awesome. The Bengals are spending buku bucks on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. How the hell are you going to stop that? How are you going to stop that? You got to have pressure. If Joe Burrow sits there and surveys the landscape and Josh Pascal and Levi are not going to get to the quarterback, and Levi put it out there publicly, he's like, yeah, I got to turn those pressures into sacks. That's my time. And he better, if he wants another contract, he got only a 1-year deal. So he got that prove it situation. But let's start with this. Because a lot of fans were just, and it's a story now on Lions on SI too. We talked about the pros and cons of bringing back Za'Darius Smith. I think that just should be a given. Try to find him an affordable contract, 1 year, $3 million, with another 3 on top of it for incentives. If he gets double-digit sacks, it's $1 million. If he gets a couple sacks in the postseason, that's some bonuses, some opportunities. If the Lions win a Super Bowl, another $2 million. Just give it a bonus-heavy, incentive-heavy contract that he can make some money if he performs. But nobody is going to be impressed when you see Azeez Ojulari, who is one-dimensional, but he still got 6 sacks, signed for $4 million with the Eagles. So that pisses people off because they say, well, if Howie Roseman likes you and will throw away $4 million, I would have threw away 5.5 for Azeez. Even if he sucks, it's another body to compete. You pick his brain a little bit.
To the quarterback. That was your big issue all last season, the season before that. You've got one guy in Aiden Hutchinson who has the ability to get to the quarterback. And look, Aiden did a really good job, even though it was only about half a year, maybe a quarter of the year. He did a good job of turning pressures into sacks.
Yeah, and here's where
he's the only guy you've got that does that, though.
And here's the thing, that's what I was saying, is that I would have not, if you say, oh, he stinks as a player, he's a 3-4 and an undersized. Well, if you have a coach that has a player on the roster, his job is to say, okay, I can put him down in situations. Look, if it's 3rd down and 1, I'm not playing Azeez Ojulari. If it's 3rd down and 6, and you say, hey, he's a better version than James Houston. Yep. Hey, go out there and your job on this down is to sack the quarterback. Okay, that's your job. And situationally, I think the competition would have been great. You don't think Azeez Ojulari could benefit from working with Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport? You think that he's just going to flop? I think you could have took a flyer on him and paid him another $1 million, and you would have had him here in Detroit. But, I get the people that say, well, he wanted to play with his Georgia teammates and Howie Roseman and the Eagles and all that in the division. I get it. But these guys like money. And another $1 million, he comes here easily. So I just look at it like you're too rigid in regards to I need a defensive lineman that just has to be able to stop the run and has to be able to sack the quarterback. He's got to be a perfect player and a gritty guy. Look, you just sometimes need a guy that, hey, 3rd down and 8, you go get him this down and win. And maybe he does it, and you say, hey, you want $5 million? Here's another 3 if you get a sack in the playoffs. Like, they have such thing as incentive-laden deals where the more sacks you get, the better your performance is. The opportunities are there that you're able to earn significant monies. So I get where people are frustrated. I don't dismiss Azeez Ojulari. You dismiss 6 sacks? I mean, why would you dismiss that? There's a chance he could have 8, 10 in Detroit. And situationally, you don't think that Azeez Ojulari could get 8 to 10 sacks with Aiden Hutchinson that's healthy down the road in the playoffs? I mean, you can never have enough. So that's where people, I think, that say, oh, they just dismiss players and say, we don't need that. Yes, you do. You need them all. So starting with Za'Darius Smith, I think that it wouldn't hurt to bring him back. And there's, I think, a decent chance you do. And in regards to the big fish, it just seems like if you're able to find money, $28 million for Higgins, 40 and some change for Jamar Chase, who's to say there's not another 35 for Trey Hendrickson? Maybe the Colts, I hear, are peeking around, but it just seems like the Lions are looking at it and saying, and it's not a bad thing. Look, the contracts are going to go up now for Jamison Williams. Kirby Joseph's got to be paid. The number is going to be supremely higher for Terry and Arnold, Brian Branch next year, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell. So, unfortunately, Brad Holmes' wallet is not spending on external guys. So, I think the only option you got is the draft and Za'Darius Smith. And it's not as sexy as people would like it to be, but I do think that there's opportunities to upgrade at the trade deadline and guys that get cut that maybe are battling for jobs or have opportunities down the road at training camp. But they're not done in free agency, but it's a fair B+ free agency. It's not sexy. It's not fun. And maybe you can shed light too, because my father-in-law was having dinner with the father-in-law. I'm like, oh, they signed another tight end, Kenny Yeboah. He's like, so what? Can he rush the passer? And he's never like that. He's never just blunt. Yep. He's like, can Kenny Yeboah rush the passer? I almost choked on the food.
He's like the biggest lion slap.
All right.
Like he's everything like, they're doing great. Things are great. I'm like, come on, bro. What are you talking about here?
Kenny Yeboah did not move the needle for the father-in-law. And I was like, well, I know. I got to write about it. But yeah, he's a blocking tight end, and he's going to help the rush. That's about it. But yeah, Roy Lopez, the linebacker from the Colts, they're role players. They're not going to move the needle in the playoffs. They'll make plays. They'll help fill the gap. But you still need Ali McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reader to shine, and you need Levi and Josh Pascal to do some things, and you need that draft pick, whoever it may be, is going to have the pressure of the world on him to sack the quarterback. But the edge rusher is a priority, and it should be.
And here's the thing. You're counting on 2 guys who make up that defensive front in Aiden Hutchinson and Ali McNeil. Both guys who went down with catastrophic injuries. There are no guarantees that those guys are going to be ready week 1. There's no guarantee that those guys are going to hit the ground running when they do come back. They might need a ramp-up period. There's no guarantees about that. And you are playing in one of the most deadly divisions in football in the NFC North. And if you start losing games early, you're going to find yourself on the outside of the playoffs looking in, which is why if you have to, right, if all things considered, figure something out, bring Za'Darius Smith back in, do it on a 1-year deal, like you said, $3-4 million, make it incentive laden where if he hits a certain number of sacks or if he gets a sack in the playoffs, you can throw him a couple extra mil. For me, we talked about this last week. It is Trey Hendrickson or bust, right? Like that is the only thing that's going to salvage what, in my estimation, has been a pretty putrid offseason, right? Free agency has been absolute trash. All you've done is you've gone out and you've basically hit the reset button and brought in all of your own guys, brought all your old guys back. Hey, good job on getting 15 guys in here on free agency, all depth pieces. When you tried to address the cornerback position, it wasn't like you got substantially better. We could make the argument that you probably got a little bit worse by not bringing Carlton Davis back. Carlton Davis, very good man-on-man. You went out and you basically got a zone cornerback to take his spot. I think they're about the same person, but you didn't get better there. You haven't added an edge rusher. You haven't added anybody who can really get to the quarterback of substance. And the two guys that you have who are supposed to be the catalyst for all of that, they're coming off the IR. And I don't believe that they're ready week one. So when it comes time to talk about a guy like a Trey Hendrickson, and look, at this moment in time, I'm putting all of my eggs into the draft basket, right? I'm thinking when draft day rolls around, they might be able to make a move on draft day to get him here. You can find money. We've talked about being able to find money. Teams can find money. The salary cap is not real. I want to know what you'd be willing to give up for Trey Hendrickson, because the Bengals sound dead set on getting a first-round pick for him. And in my world, that's not going to fly. I'm not giving you a first-round pick. I'm not giving you pick 28. Just not doing it. But what I would do is I'd have no problem giving you a second this year. I'd have no problem possibly throwing in a third. We got a couple of those. I would have no problem throwing in a couple of picks maybe from next year, all things considered. Now, if I am throwing in additional picks, I do want something back. Obviously, it would be lesser. If I was to give you my second-round pick and I was to give you my third-round pick, I'd want Trey Hendrickson, and I'd want probably a fifth-round back. And I think we can make a deal. And look, I'd be willing to give the guy $37 million a year. Like, you bring him in my world, first 2 years guaranteed. Here you go. Here's 60 mil right off rip, right? 65, 70 mil right off rip. Third year, we'll do whatever we got to do with it, right? So if the production falls off after year 3, you can get out of it. Hopefully by that point, one of the guys that maybe you have drafted either this year or next year are able to fill that spot. You've got money now for Aiden as well. You're able to work things around. You're able to do stuff. What would you be willing to give up? Would you be willing to give the first-round pick up for a guy like Trey Hendrickson, or is the first-round pick just a little bit too much? And would you be willing to give up something else, another pick, maybe a second and a third to get him? And then how much money would you be willing to re-sign him for, and what would your term look like?
Yeah, it's tough.
It's a lot. It's a loaded question. There's a lot there.
I like
to look at what you're doing on what's going to impact this draft,
yeah.
And then you're looking at salary cap and salary structure for the next couple of years. Like I said, I'm willing to give up a second and possibly an additional third to get him, and then I'm willing to pay him in excess of $37 million a year, and I'm willing to make those first 2 years guaranteed.
Yeah, I would do number 28, and I like $35 million a year. I like the fact that it stinks because he's going to want probably in the neighborhood of 38 to 42. It's just one of those deals where if you could get him for 2 years and guarantee him all $70 million, it's not a bad situation. If you want to get up to 40, you got to do it. Maybe you got to do it, but I just don't feel like the affordability is there. I would give up a draft pick. I would not probably do more than the number 28 because of the contract. That's a first-round pick. They're coveted. It's great if you have an opportunity. If you're the Lions, if you're at number 28, because of the fact you're going to owe so many people so much money, you trade down and you see about getting some value, so you don't have to worry about the fifth-year option. You don't have to worry about the guarantee. You just get them for 4 years and you keep them under control. The depth is great at the defensive line. It just seems too much. It just seems like we're saying, hey, yeah, it'd be nice to have a $100,000 watch. That'd be great. That'd be nice. Man, a Daytona, Rolex blinging out there, that's nice. Platinum, blue dial, ice blue, that'd be nice. But realistically, it would be hard to shell out that kind of money to pay for it. And two, it just is not realistic. Like, I got a mortgage to pay. I got shit to do. I got kids to put through college. I got mouths to feed, So it just feels like a pipe dream. So that's why, and I think when Brad Holmes goes into the microphone and says, hey, they ask him directly, can you afford it? He's like, probably not. We can't afford it because Kirby Joseph's like, hey, you got to feed me. Aiden's probably like, holy schmeckles. The market just hit 40. I need 42. I need 41. I want 150 million guaranteed. I want 4 years, 160 and 120 guaranteed. So Aiden's got to eat. Kirby's got to eat. Jameson's going to cost you a fifth-year option. So that right there just makes it so that we all know that next year, Goff and Amon-Ra, Panay, and Taylor might get cut. There's going to be some money that's restructured and moved around so that this can all be affordable. So tough decisions are coming. I think you and I are settling in to the old acceptance that you got to get the Lombardi with what you got. And a young draft pick is going to be the thing. And there's still, the deadline, which maybe could get you a receiver or another reserve offensive lineman or somebody that you can trust. Maybe a team like the Seahawks sinks, or, a team like the Vikings, or, a team like the Browns, or someone sinks and you can nab one of their guys at the deadline. But that's the hope. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think you and I are kind of steadily losing confidence that it's, that the Lions are a top 4 team that are Super Bowl favorites, because you still got to hope that Aiden and Aleem come back healthy. Like maybe you get 80% of them. No, that's good. But you might have needed 100, 105% of their productivity to be able to get there. So it's tough. You got new coordinators, tough schedule. So you may be facing some more road games. So it's tough. It's an uphill climb, but we still got some moves to still analyze moving forward. But I love the angst of the fan base to say, hey, get the best players, because the best players give you the best chance to win a Lombardi trophy. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Thanks for giving us your listening ear. Like, subscribe. If you hate what Adam says, if you hate Adam calling Steve Yzerman a bitch, let him know. If you hate that Adam didn't like Levi Onwuzurike signing, let him know, because all of you for sure let him know. So I appreciate everybody who has been passionate, engaged. 3 words: Detroit Sports Podcast, and our content will find you. And again, the hub of the operation at Detroit Podcast. I can't wait to fire it up next week for the second weekend of the NCAA Tournament and looking at how the Lions are shaping up for the upcoming NFL Draft.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.